Okay, this is my cultural institute with my country of choice, India. So here's the first page. That first image is going to be the front entrance with the reception desk, the lobby area kind of introduced as you walk into the space more to the left, and as well as the three large arches in the curator's office right behind it. These arches are one of the big significant pieces kind of leading into the overall solution and concept. So, when originally kind of space planning and figuring out what I wanted to do for this, I really wanted to emulate the traditional Haveli floor plan. So, the traditional houses or city houses within the country. And so, they always have a very centralized meeting area or kind of more public space. And so, um, that was a big mode of inspiration going into the space planning. But overall, included a lot of the different archways, wood textures, light colors, fine textiles, natural materials, to really, again, emulate that cultural Indian aesthetic as well as introduce those Hindi and Buddhist themes. Another big part of my solution was making sure that the private versus public spaces were zoned very well as integrating the steel case solutions into my overall furniture selections. So that was a big thing that I factored in whenever throughout my design process. But going into the board, we have the problem, solution, concept, which I kind of already went over. But one of the biggest taglines for this project was "Make the world your classroom." So one of the images towards the left of those arches, that was one of my main precedence images when designing the archways, and I definitely wanted to incorporate that into the main entryways within the space instead of traditional doors. And then finally, towards the bottom, we have a lot of my other process. So we have one of the main sketches. So the archways, plants, and lanterns, and possible floor seating, cushions, kind of custom upholstery, much like the overall Indian cultural ideas, as well as my main bubble diagram that I used for the overall zoning of the space. Now, going into my second board, one of the first images we see is a big money shot perspective. That is going to be the lobby. So we have some seating, we have the archways, a screen, and also a beam system. And then to the left of that image is going to be the main material board for that space, as well as the overall floor plan. So, looking at the material board, one of the images is also another big precedence image I used with the dark woods, the lighter colors, kind of incorporating that high contrast, high visibility within this commercial space, as well as just the arches and the traditional Indian features. Looking at the left square, so the rattan weave, I wanted to incorporate that weave pattern. You can see it's in the coffee table. It's also that weave pattern incorporated in the custom desk. And so I definitely wanted to use that to kind of introduce that more natural finish. The red textile is going to be incorporated into the traditional wool or cotton rug as seen in that image. And then the light maple, that's going to be in that screen system to kind of provide for that high contrast again. And then we go into the dark walnut. So that's going to be the main material used throughout with the framing system and the beam system, as well as the custom desk as seen on the next slide. But and then finally, this last texture, it's going to be that off-white cream color for a majority of the walls, but also that textured wave paneling, which would also be beneficial for acoustic purposes. Moving on, we have my two long elevations. That first one is going to highlight that eastern side with all of those windows, and it just kind of shows the profile for the exhibit, the workroom, the curator's office, the circulation, so just a simple hallway, and uh, the added seminar room. So that just kind of shows the basic profile and how those spaces are kind of worked in with the different existing windows. And then going into the second elevation, that's going to show that more western side of the building. So again, moving left to right, we have our big meeting room with the two 6 foot wide projection screens. We have our uh, lobby, then we have our seating area, then we have our exhibit space with the glass display windows, as well as that projection screen. And then we have the support staff workroom area, as well as their kind of offset huddle space to the very right. Moving on, we have the primary floor plan of this space. So it really just kind of highlights how that space is going to be used going into the reception, the lobby, the curator's office, the meeting room, the seminar room, the workroom, the exhibit, the support staff, the kitchen, the recruitment office, as well as the huddle space for the support staff. But to the right, I have just some additional annotations and callouts just to highlight some of the the smaller features within that space. So some of the big things to note was my staircase in the exhibit that is actually going to be going downwards, and then there's a rendering on this next slide where you can see how I use that to kind of showcase if they were to have an exhibit. By the support staff space, we have these different callouts as well, highlighting the Answer Open office system paneling. That panel system, as well as those desks, are going to be customizable for the support staff. And then that is just going to be one of the main steel case features that I used. And then also included is going to be that kind of offset or secluded huddle space, which is still very in close proximity to the primary support staff seating, but it's kind of offset in case they were to want to have more privacy during their work. And then going back to the exhibit, it actually has a south and a north entrance. So the primary entrance would be for viewers to come in through the main entrance, the lobby, going into the exhibit if there were an event in there. And then there is an additional exit that kind of exits more towards the support staff. So if the event calls for it, viewers can see that workspace, or they can immediately turn left and go down a more private hallway and back to their lobby. And then finally, we have the meeting room, which is going to offer, again, the projection screens as well as plenty of space for those dividers to have that room with that conference table and the seminar room right next to it. And then going back to the different Steelcase solutions, I already talked about the Answer Open Office system, as well as those desks and how those kind of look with the dual monitors and how they are kind of organized to fit everyone. But another primary Steelcase solution that I used in the more private or single office spaces was the slim leg adjustable desk, as well as the max stacker all chair. So that's going to be solutions that offer the user to customize it, so they can customize the height, but they can also easily move around those chairs for any guests. And then finally, we have another rendering. So this is going to be the primary entrance to the exhibit right next to the lobby where those cutouts are. And that's kind of just to show the profile of what that entrance would look like. So it has the ETSUE highlighting the Indian flag, as well as the backlights and the country name, these traditional lanterns, as well as that dark walnut framing system. And this was actually an AI rendering used by Google Gemini. And then finally, we have my third and final board. So starting off the bat, another one of my perspectives. So this is going to be that staircase going downward featured in the exhibit. And so I wanted to use this as kind of a wayfinding or like a marketing tool. So you have the shelves, so the curator can display whatever they want. If that goes along with the exhibit on those archway shelving systems, as well as the dark walnut primarily used within the space. And then the signage, the world is your classroom. And then we have a cool India cutout backlit, as you can see in this right image of the precedents. That's kind of two images that I was looking to for inspiration. But I also wanted to feature some of these material callouts to just kind of better show what I was intending for these features. So, looking at the country of India cutout, we have the Three-Form brand, which is these resin tiling or wall or just like paneling systems that can be used for really cool design features. So I wanted to include that three form knotted hemp that also kind of goes along with that woven texture kind of used throughout the space, as well as the light maple wood used in the lobby, and that screen system kind of offsetting the main design feature. And then going down, we have my custom reception desk, which features the main part of the reception desk. So it's this profile that uses the dark walnut, the this three form woven bamboo. So again, it's going to be this resin material, this hard support that's also going to provide that woven aesthetic. But the desk has that taller primary workspace for the dual monitors, as well as that secondary shorter workspace. Both are going to have that dark walnut lacing carved in them, to also emulate the traditional Indian aesthetic. But looking in that section a little bit closer, we have that stud wall. We have the three form woven bamboo as another layer. And then we have two outer layers of the walnut on both sides, encapsulating that three form bamboo, and just making sure that it is in place. On the kind of more privacy, like transaction counter, that is going to be either solid walnut or that MDF with a walnut veneer matching the same color. And that's also going to use the three form woven bamboo, as well as another layer of that walnut MDF right behind it, backing it for further support. And then towards the bottom left, we have that plan view of the desk with the overall dimensions and kind of what those the profiles look like and those workspaces in a plan view. And then we just have a general perspective, just a really good shot of what that desk looks like. And then finally, I have my STC rated wall. So that wall is going to be featured in the meeting room. It's going to be one of those interior walls. So it's kind of implied that the metal studs will be staggered. You can see there's going to be that middle layer of insulation right next to the studs, as well as this membrane that is over the studs to provide a secondary acoustical feature. And then on both sides, since it is an interior wall, you'll have a layer of chipboard painted covering those. And then that wall rating is going to be an STC rating of 34 to 39, as found on the STC rating website. But that concludes my presentation. I hope you enjoyed. I really enjoyed this project, so thank you so much.